Listen closely. Most people think avoidants don't care, that they are cold, detached, incapable of deep love. But that is only half the truth. The reality is far more complicated and far more emotional. Avoidants often feel deeply, but they learned very early in life that closeness equals pain, pressure, or loss of control. So they built walls, they built silence, they built distance. But here is something almost nobody tells you. When an avoidant does certain things for you, things that go against their natural instincts, it means you are not just another connection. You are not just a temporary emotional experience. You are someone who reached past their defenses and touched the part of them they usually keep hidden from everyone. If your avoidant partner does these rare things for you, you should never take them for granted, because these behaviors are extremely rare. They mean emotional investment, they mean trust, they mean you matter in a way that scares them and changes them at the same time. And losing an avoidant who reaches this level of connection is something many people regret for the rest of their lives. Most avoidants disappear when love gets real. They pull away when emotions rise. They shut down when conflict happens. They retreat when they feel vulnerable. So if someone with an avoidant attachment style is doing these rare things for you, it is a sign that something inside them is shifting. Something inside them is healing. Something inside them is choosing connection over fear. Now let's talk about why avoidants are so hard to keep in the first place. Avoidants learned that relying on others is unsafe. They learned that closeness leads to disappointment, control, or emotional overwhelm. So they trained themselves to be independent, self-sufficient, emotionally contained. When someone gets too close, their nervous system sends danger signals. They feel trapped, pressured, or suffocated, even when the relationship is healthy. That is why avoidants often pull away right when things are going well. That is why they struggle with commitment, emotional conversations, and vulnerability. It is not because they don't feel, it is because they feel too much and don't know how to stay regulated in closeness. And this is the hidden truth most people misunderstand about avoidance. Avoidants are not heartless. They are not incapable of love. In fact, many avoidants feel emotions very intensely. But instead of expressing them, they suppress them. Instead of sharing them, they compartmentalize them. Instead of leaning into connection, they lean into distance. They crave connection, but they fear dependence. They want intimacy, but they fear being consumed. They want love, but they fear losing themselves. So they live in this constant push-pull between desire and fear. That's why when an avoidant does something emotionally vulnerable for you, it is not a small gesture, it is a massive internal battle they are choosing to fight for the relationship. Now let's get into the first rare sign. One of the rarest things an avoidant can do for someone is initiate emotional conversations. Most avoidants avoid emotional discussions. They change the subject, make jokes, shut down, or go quiet when feelings come up. Emotional conversations feel like exposure. They feel like losing control. They feel like being seen. So when an avoidant comes to you and says, "Can we talk about how I feel?" or "I've been thinking about us," or "I want to share something emotional," that is not normal behavior for them. That is a sign of deep trust. That is a sign that they feel safe enough with you to open a door they usually keep locked. It means they are willing to risk discomfort, vulnerability, and uncertainty just to connect with you. It means they see you as someone who won't overwhelm them, shame them, or control them. It means they are choosing emotional intimacy instead of emotional avoidance. Many people never experience this side of an avoidant. So if you do, understand how rare it is. The second rare sign is when an avoidant apologizes without being forced. Avoidants struggle with accountability, not because they are arrogant, but because admitting fault feels like emotional exposure. Apologizing requires vulnerability. It requires admitting they affected someone emotionally. It requires facing relational consequences instead of escaping them. So when an avoidant genuinely says, "I'm sorry," without being pushed, without being cornered, without being manipulated, it is huge. It means they care about how you feel. It means your emotional experience matters to them. Opinsel, it means they are willing to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Most avoidants would rather withdraw than apologize. They would rather shut down than admit emotional responsibility. So when they take responsibility on their own, it shows emotional maturity, growth and attachment healing. And here is what makes this even more emotional. When an avoidant apologizes sincerely, it often means they feared losing you. They realized that their behavior could damage the connection. They felt the risk of distance, and instead of choosing distance, they chose repair. That is not common, that is rare, that is meaningful. So far you've heard two rare behaviors, but the next ones get even deeper. These are not surface-level gestures. These are signs that an avoidant is emotionally investing in you in a way that goes against their core survival strategies. And as we continue, you'll start to see why losing an avoidant who does these things can feel like losing someone who was slowly learning how to love you in the most genuine way they knew how. And as we continue, you'll start to understand something important. When an avoidant begins to show up emotionally, they are not just changing their behavior for you. They are rewriting the way their nervous system learned to survive. They are challenging years of emotional conditioning. They are walking toward connection, while their instincts tell them to run. Now let's move into the third rare sign, and this one is deeply emotional. When an avoidant consistently checks in on your feelings, it is not accidental, it is not casual, it is a conscious choice. Avoidants are wired to focus on logic, independence and self-regulation. Emotional check-ins don't come naturally to them. Asking how you feel requires emotional attunement. It requires empathy. It requires staying present with emotions instead of avoiding them. So when an avoidant asks you, how did that make you feel? Or are you okay? Or did that hurt you? They are stepping into emotional territory that once felt dangerous. They are showing that your emotional world matters to them. They are showing that they want to understand you instead of staying detached. For many avoidants, emotions were ignored or dismissed growing up. So learning to care about someone else's emotional state is a massive shift. It means they are practicing emotional connection. It means they are building intimacy in a way they never learned before. And here's what makes this so powerful. When an avoidant checks in on your feelings, they are also learning to recognize their own. They are slowly unlearning emotional suppression. They are creating space for vulnerability in themselves and in the relationship. If your avoidant partner checks in on your emotions, they are not just caring about you, they are healing themselves in real time. Now let's move to the fourth rare sign, and this one touches the deepest fear of avoidance, commitment. When an avoidant makes you part of their future plans, it is one of the clearest signs of emotional investment. Avoidants usually live in the present to avoid feeling trapped by the future. Planning ahead can trigger fears of losing freedom, identity, or autonomy. So when they talk about future trips, future goals, living arrangements, or long-term visions with you in the picture, it is a huge step. It means they are not just thinking about themselves, they are imagining a life where you are still there. This is not something avoidants do lightly. To include someone in their future requires trust, stability, and emotional security. It means they are not planning an exit, they are planning a continuation. And emotionally, this can be terrifying for them. Imagining a future with someone means risking heartbreak, dependency, and vulnerability. But when they still choose to do it, it means you represent safety, comfort, and connection to them. Many avoidants will stay in relationships, but never fully plan a future. They keep one foot out the door. So if your avoidant is talking about future milestones with you, that is not just romance, that is emotional courage. Now let's move to the fifth rare sign, and this one is deeply intimate. When an avoidant lets you see their vulnerable side, you are witnessing something they rarely show anyone. Vulnerability feels unsafe to avoidants. It feels like exposure, weakness, and loss of control. So when they open up about their childhood, their fears, their insecurities, their past relationships, or their emotional struggles, it is not casual sharing, it is trust in its purest form. They are letting you see the parts of themselves they learned to hide to survive. They are allowing you into their emotional inner world. They are dropping the armor they built over many years. This is why vulnerability from an avoidant can feel so intense and emotional. It is not just information, it is a piece of their identity they are handing to you. When an avoidant shares their fears, it often means they feel safe with you. They believe you won't judge them, control them, or use their vulnerability against them. They believe you will stay. And for an avoidant, believing someone will stay is one of the hardest things to trust. Now let's move to the sixth rare sign, and this one changes everything in relationships. When an avoidant does not disappear during conflict, it is a massive sign of growth. Avoidants are known for shutting down, withdrawing, stonewalling, or ghosting during emotional tension. Conflict feels like danger. Their instinct is to create distance to regain emotional control. So when they stay during arguments, when they keep talking, when they don't shut down or disappear, it is a powerful indicator that they value the relationship more than their fear. Staying during conflict means they are willing to experience emotional discomfort for the sake of connection. It means they are learning that conflict does not equal catastrophe. It means they are choosing communication over avoidance. This is not easy for them. Their body may be flooded with stress. Their mind may be screaming to retreat, but they are still there. They are still listening. They are still engaging. That is love in action for an avoidant. And here is something important to understand. When an avoidant stays during conflict, they are reprogramming their attachment system. They are teaching their nervous system that closeness can survive tension, that relationships can handle discomfort, that they do not have to run to be safe. This is extremely rare. Many avoidants never reach this stage, so if you experience this, you are witnessing emotional evolution. Now let's move to the seventh rare sign, which touches the core of avoidant identity, independence. Avoidants value independence more than almost anything. It is their safety net. It is their identity. It is their shield. So when an avoidant chooses you over their independence sometimes, it is a profound statement. This can look like adjusting their schedule for you, prioritizing time with you, compromising on plans, or emotionally showing up even when it feels uncomfortable. It means they are not just protecting their autonomy, they are integrating you into their life. They are allowing connection to coexist with independence. This is difficult for avoidance. It can feel like losing themselves. But when they choose connection anyway, it means you are important enough to shift their priorities. It means love is starting to outweigh fear. And emotionally, this is one of the most meaningful signs. It shows that they are not just tolerating closeness, they are actively choosing it. Now let's move to the eighth rare sign, and this one is subtle but powerful. When an avoidant expresses love in their own way, it may not look like what you expect. They may not say "I love you" easily. They may not be overly expressive or emotional, but they show love through actions. They might fix things for you, support you in practical ways, remember small details, or quietly show up when you need them. They might express care through consistency, loyalty, and presence rather than words. For avoidance, actions feel safer than words. Saying "I love you" feels exposed. Doing loving things feels controlled and manageable. So when you notice these subtle acts of care, understand that this is their love language. This is how they feel safe expressing connection. And if they combine actions with words, that is even rarer. It means they are stepping beyond their comfort zone to meet you emotionally. These 8 signs are not common. They are not guaranteed. They are not easy for avoidance to develop. But when you see them, you are witnessing emotional investment, vulnerability, and attachment healing in real time. And here is the emotional truth. Losing an avoidant who does these things is not like losing someone who was emotionally unavailable. It is like losing someone who was slowly learning how to love you, learning how to stay, learning how to be vulnerable, and learning how to connect. It is losing someone who was evolving for the relationship, and that kind of loss can feel deeply haunting. As we continue, we'll explore why these signs mean emotional commitment, why such avoidants are so rare, and how you can keep a connection with someone who is opening up in this way without pushing them away. And now that you've heard the 8 rare signs, it's important to understand what they really mean beneath the surface. These behaviors are not just romantic gestures, they are psychological milestones. They are emotional breakthroughs that many avoidants never reach in their lifetime. When an avoidant shows these signs, it means something fundamental is happening inside them. They are emotionally invested. They are no longer just reacting to closeness with fear. They are actively choosing connection. They are challenging their survival patterns. They are letting someone matter. This is the moment where an avoidant is no longer just emotionally unavailable. They are emotionally awakening. For an avoidant, emotional investment feels dangerous. It means caring deeply. It means risking pain. It means opening a door that once led to hurt. But when they still choose to invest, it means you have become a safe emotional anchor for them. It means your presence calms their nervous system instead of triggering it. It means your connection feels more comforting than threatening. It means they are beginning to believe that closeness does not equal loss of self. This is rare, and it is powerful. Now let's talk about the danger of losing an avoidant who reaches this level. Most people think losing an avoidant is easy. They assume avoidants don't care. They assume avoidants move on without emotion. But that is not how it works when an avoidant has emotionally invested. When an avoidant loses someone they have opened up to, it hits them in a delayed, internal way. They may not react immediately. They may seem calm. They may seem detached. But later, when the distance settles in, they feel the weight of what they lost. They replay conversations. They remember the vulnerability. They remember the moments they chose connection over fear. And they realize how rare that connection was. For an avoidant, finding someone who feels emotionally safe is extremely uncommon. So when they lose that person, it can leave a silent void they struggle to fill. They may distract themselves with work, independence, or new connections, but deep down, they know they lost something unique, and that realization can linger for years. Now let's explore why avoidants who show these signs are so rare. Avoidant attachment is deeply ingrained. It is often shaped by early childhood experiences where emotional needs were ignored, dismissed, or punished. To survive, they learn to rely on themselves and suppress vulnerability. Healing that pattern requires awareness, effort, and emotional courage. Many avoidants never reach that stage. They stay in patterns of distance, detachment, and emotional suppression because it feels safer. So when you meet an avoidant who is actively working on themselves, communicating, staying during conflict, and opening up emotionally, you are meeting someone who is breaking generational emotional cycles. They are not just loving you. They are reprogramming their attachment system. That is why they are super rare. Now let's talk about how to keep an avoidant who is showing these signs without pushing them away. The key is balance. Avoidants fear engulfment. They fear losing autonomy. So while they are opening up, they still need space to breathe. Respect their independence. Encourage their individuality. Avoid making them feel trapped or controlled. Communicate clearly but calmly. Avoid emotional overwhelm. Express your needs without pressure or ultimatums. Show appreciation for their vulnerability. Let them know you see their effort. Reinforce safety instead of fear. When an avoidant feels safe, they open more. When they feel pressured, they close. Your emotional stability becomes their anchor. And here is something deeply emotional. When you treat an avoidant with patience and security while they are opening up, you become a corrective emotional experience. You become proof that closeness can be safe, that love can be stable, that vulnerability does not lead to disaster. You are not just a partner, you are part of their healing journey. Now let's talk about the mistakes that can push even rare avoidance away. One of the biggest mistakes is over-pursuing, constantly chasing, demanding reassurance, or escalating emotional pressure can trigger their fear of engulfment. Another mistake is interpreting their need for space as rejection. Sometimes they need solitude to regulate. Taking this personally can create unnecessary conflict. Ultimatums, emotional manipulation, and testing their love can also backfire. Avoidants respond poorly to emotional coercion. They shut down instead of leaning in. And finally, ignoring your own needs while focusing only on them can create imbalance. A healthy relationship requires mutual effort, not emotional self-sacrifice. Even a rare avoidant who is opening up can retreat if they feel overwhelmed, controlled, or emotionally unsafe. So if you want to keep an avoidant who is evolving, you must create a relationship that feels safe, balanced, and emotionally regulated. And here is the emotional truth. When an avoidant starts to love you, they are in an internal battle. Part of them wants closeness, part of them wants distance, part of them feels peace with you, part of them fears losing themselves. They may pull back and then lean in again. They may struggle to express feelings. They may need reassurance without knowing how to ask for it. But if they are showing these rare signs, it means love is winning that battle. It means connection is becoming stronger than fear. And that is something very few people ever experience with an avoidant. In the next sections, we'll explore what avoidants wish you understood about them, share a powerful emotional transformation scenario, and close with a message that will deeply resonate with anyone who has loved someone emotionally avoidant. And now, there is something every person who has loved an avoidant needs to hear. Something avoidants rarely say out loud. Something that lives beneath their silence, their distance, and their guarded hearts. Avoidants wish you understood how hard closeness can feel for them. They don't pull away because you are not enough. They don't need space because they don't care. They don't shut down because your emotions are a burden. They pull away because intimacy can feel like standing too close to a fire when you've been burned before. They need space because closeness can overwhelm their nervous system. They shut down because vulnerability once led to pain, shame, or abandonment. Inside many avoidants is a child who learned that love was inconsistent, conditional, or unsafe. So they learned to survive without needing anyone. And when they finally meet someone who feels safe, it can be both beautiful and terrifying. They may love you deeply, but struggle to express it. They may crave your presence, but fear losing themselves in you. They may want closeness, but feel panic when it actually happens. If they are showing the rare signs we talked about, it means they are fighting against these instincts. It means they are choosing you over fear, connection over isolation, vulnerability over control. And that is not small, that is everything. Now imagine this. An avoidant meets someone who feels different. Someone who doesn't chase too hard, doesn't disappear, doesn't pressure, and doesn't play games. Someone who feels emotionally steady, warm, and consistent. At first, they keep their distance, they stay logical, they stay guarded, but slowly they notice something. They feel calmer around this person, they feel less triggered, they feel understood instead of judged. One day, they share something personal, a memory, a fear, a truth. They never tell anyone, and instead of being dismissed, they are met with empathy. They start checking in on that person's feelings. They apologize when they make mistakes. They stay during arguments. They imagine a future. They choose connection over independence sometimes. And suddenly, they realize they are in love. But love feels dangerous. Love feels risky. Love feels like giving someone the power to hurt them. So they hesitate. They pull back. Then they lean in again. They are changing, but they are scared. Now imagine losing that person. The avoidant goes back to independence, back to emotional control, back to distance. But something feels different now. They remember what it felt like to be close. They remember what it felt like to be understood. They remember what it felt like to feel safe with someone. And independence no longer feels as satisfying. Silence feels louder. Distance feels colder. They may not chase. They may not beg. They may not express regret. But inside, they carry the awareness that they lost something rare. That is the emotional weight of losing an avoidant who was opening up. Now let's bring this back to you. If you are with an avoidant who does these rare things, understand what you are witnessing. You are not just in a relationship, you are in a moment of emotional transformation. You are seeing someone unlearn survival patterns. You are seeing someone choose vulnerability. You are seeing someone build emotional intimacy from scratch. And that takes courage, that takes effort, that takes love. But here is the most important part. You should never stay in a relationship where your needs are unmet, where you feel invisible, or where you are constantly anxious. Even rare avoidants are still responsible for their behavior. Healing is mutual, love is mutual, effort is mutual. You are not responsible for fixing anyone. But if you choose to stay with an avoidant who is trying, growing, and showing these rare signs, you are participating in something deeply human and deeply powerful. And if you ever lose someone like that, remember this. You were not just someone in their life. You were someone who made closeness feel safe. You were someone who challenged their fears. You were someone who helped them rewrite their emotional story. That kind of connection does not fade easily. So if your avoidant partner initiates emotional conversations, apologizes sincerely, checks in on your feelings, plans a future with you, shows vulnerability, stays during conflict, chooses you over independence sometimes, and expresses love in their own way, understand this clearly. They are not emotionally unavailable, they are emotionally awakening, and people like that are super rare. If this resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. Have you loved someone avoidant? Did they show any of these signs? And remember, the rarest thing in relationships is not perfection. The rarest thing is someone who is willing to grow with you instead of running away.